What's going on, guys? It's the Gnome King again, here with the big brush gun presentation. And we're going to talk about the definition of the brush gun first, and how the most quintessential brush gun breaks the rules right off the bat. All right, so with a brush gun, we have big bore, short, light, and handy, and it's a lever action, right? This is the broadly accepted definition. And right here we have in front of us two Winchester 94 carbines. This is the quintessential brush gun in 30-30. And you see what I just said? 30-30. It just broke the rule already because this is not big bore. This is a 30 cal. This is standard bore in the US at least. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at this right here. This Winchester 94 musket. This is not a brush gun. This is a rifle. Now we're going to get into the definition of short. And for all intensive purposes, we have to go back to the M16. And we're going to talk about American law. So with the AR-15, 16-inch barrel is carbine. 20-inch barrel is rifle. In Vietnam, when the M16's first showing up, the full-length M16 compared to everything before it was a carbine. So this is kind of where the modern definitions are starting to touch a little bit. And we have two selections of rifles, and then we have the modern in the middle. These, without this NRA model, are all brush guns. These are not, but they will more or less do the same thing. So let's talk about the brush guns first. Winchester Model 94s, quintessential, 30-30, the regular, real deal. Marlin, 4570 carbine with the big loop. Probably second most famous thought coming to your mind when you're thinking of a brush gun. And now we have the Smith & Wesson 1854, new production in 44 Magnum. Let's take a look at this Spencer carbine. This fits all of the definition of a brush gun, other than the barrel is a little bit over 20 inches. However, in this time period, compared to an 1861 to 64 Springfield musket, this was a carbine that was lighter, that was handier. That is indeed lever action. However, the lever on the Spencer carbine does not cock the hammer. So you have to do that yourself every time you operate the weapon. But this in 5650 does fit the definition perfectly of a brush gun. All right, now we're going to talk about all these things that are not brush guns, but will do the same thing. Now, first of all, Winchester Model 1895 and Winchester Model 1873. Both of these, beautiful examples, new production from Morocco. I know a lot of people say the originals are way more collectible. This is a pre-64 I have here, and I'm going to be so honest with you. These Morocco guns are the best Winchesters ever made. Quality-wise, you really, like the originals, they're great, they're collectible, they're amazing pieces of history, but if you want to run a Winchester, not only do these blow all the Italian reproductions out of the water, these blow the originals out of the water. These are great. But enough about that. That doesn't matter. Both of these have barrel lengths over 20 inches. All right? So now we're starting to get into the ballpark of maybe these might be a little bit too long to be humping around through tight brush because we might be getting caught on things. That's if you think 2 or 3 inches is going to make the difference. Right here, we have the most brush gun, non-brush gun I've ever seen in the inspiration for this entire video. This is a Navy Arms 4570 conversion, which I've showcased in a short on this channel previously. This is not a brush gun. How? How the hell is this not a brush gun? A bolt-action 4570 SMLE with a shorter barrel? That sounds like a brush gun to me. Circling back over to this. Savage, model 1899 in 300 Savage. Beautiful internal rotary magazine, lever action, and maybe we'll zoom in at the end just to show you. There is a bullet counter attached to the rotary magazine. Every time you load a cartridge, the numbers move. Super, super ahead of its time. When you are collecting these, you are always looking for the legendary variant. These were made very, very late. And the legendary variant we are looking for is 308. These in 308, that's a gun worth bragging about. Remington Model 760 in 30-06. Pump action, hunting rifle, light, handy, but this one might actually have a little too much oomph as far as distance is concerned. Maybe. 30-06 standard GI starts dropping really heavily after 600 yards, and this actually might be too much gun for what you're looking for in regards to liability upon where the impact is if you're hunting in the dense brush. Something to consider. And then, of course, my favorite on the table, M1 carbine. Talk to some of the older Vietnam vets, and those 55 grain bullets were not cutting through the brush like they should. This, essentially, 30 caliber carbine, 30 caliber PDW, has a very, very long pistol bullet, kind of comparable to 357 Magnum. And you'll hear about some of these guys. Just that little bit of extra weight, maybe double the weight of the 55 grain 5.56, somewhere in that ballpark, was cutting through the brush and impacting on target much better than the 55 grain. So I've actually heard people, Vietnam vets, refer to this as a nice little brush gun. Food for thought. They were using it in the field. They knew what they were doing, and if they liked it over something that was designed 30 years after it, 20 years after it, definitely to be considered. Probably actually a brush gun. Right here I have a selection of pistols in front of me. And we're going to talk about definitions changing with time and how things work. 1911 automatic handgun, designed by John Moses Browning. In World War I, as these handguns are coming out, this is the quintessential combat handgun. However, in modernity, with these new ammo types and all these different defensive loads, jacketed soft points, hollow points, the works, this old style of pistol doesn't necessarily run the modern fighting cartridges. This piece of garbage, this high point, will run more diverse ammo types reliably than the original combat pistol. And that's because it's newer, right? What is the combat pistol now? Polymer framed, high capacity plastic fantastics. Tolerances fit in the right way where they will run any ammunition that a factory could even design. Ultra reliable, boringly reliable, terribly efficient. This is a combat handgun now. This is not. However, I will say on a rainy day, there is nothing better than shooting golf balls with the classics. This is great. There is nothing wrong with this gun, but the definitions have changed. This is no longer a combat handgun. This is now our combat handgun. I'm lubricating your brain a little bit because I want to talk about how the average man has been more or less priced out of brush guns and their ammunition. 44 Magnum's not cheap. Good 44 Magnum, worth practicing with at least, is not very cheap. And that's probably the most accessible rifle on this table, this new Smith & Wesson. And most of the time, you're still going to see it over $1,000. These Morokus and these Winchester 94s, a bad example starts at $899 in rough, terrible shape. The average man has been priced out of these, and the definition had a lot of holes in it since its inception, at least commercially speaking. So now we're going to talk about the AR-15. And to start off with, we have a great example. We have a Ban Era Leo Colt. Okay, sweet, absolutely amazing. Brush gun, no, terrible. Terrible 55 grain, and even some of the heavier 77 grains are not going to chop through brush, not in the same way a full-powered rifle would. Enter the upper conversions. Everybody's already got an AR-15, more or less. And if you don't have one, you probably should get one. One's good enough. 6.8 SPC. Definitely dead, but largely will do everything you need that a brush gun would do. And it'll do it better and more reliably and probably even more accurately, especially with the modularity and customization you can do with it. 50 Beowulf. This will stop anything. It'll go through the brush, definitely drop super quick because of how heavy the bullet is, kind of touching into the original definition of the brush guns. Definitely a great option. Probably our better ones, 458 SOCOM and 450 Bushmaster, will probably run more reliably if that's your purpose and that's what you want to do with these. Hell yeah. 300 Blackout. I mean, let's talk about this for a second. This is the new 30-30, man. You can put a Cali key in, make this a single shot if your state doesn't allow semi-automatic hunting. There are magazines available in any capacity you would need to do something legally. And this will perform tit for tat with the 30-30. No problem, especially with the supersonic loads. Okay? And the coolest thing about a lot of this is, especially when you're building out your ARs, is you have full control of barrel length because of pistol law and pistol braces. So now, this could be a 300 Blackout hunting pistol that will be legal to hunt with in any state depending on temporary modifications that you can throw onto it to make it legal. And this will do everything the 30-30 does, and you have unlimited customization. I think it's time to change the definition of brush gun because I don't think it applies to modernity anymore. Because if you take a look at everything here, these things will all more or less do the same work, but this will do it better to your specifications. Infinitely customizable, exactly how you want it, in an unlimited amount of calibers. Think about it, because right now they're making a lot of money off nostalgia, and they're making a lot of money off kind of new wave Western style things. And in reality, it's just not worth the performance. You're getting less performance for 3 times the money out of the brush guns these guys are putting out these days. And I'm not saying I wouldn't love to have a Bighorn Armory 500 Magnum lever gun that's probably somewhere in the ballpark of $4,500. Or for about $750, $800, you could build yourself any caliber any way you want. No problem. Exactly how you want it. So I'm moving to add all of the upper receivers that you can put on a standard AR-15 that are more than 22 caliber to be added to the definition of brush gun, or we should start considering them as brush guns. Think about it. I appreciate you. All right, to wrap up the presentation a little bit clearer, I think we should be defining whether guns are brush guns based off of their performance in the field to do the desired task. And if we can do that more efficiently, more affordably, and customized to our own specifications, instead of buying these one-size-fits-all factory rifles, having it exactly how you want it to perform in the field should be what makes it a brush gun. So whatever caliber you think will perform in the defined areas in the brush, that is a brush gun because it's doing the intended task. Thank you for watching the brush gun presentation. And we're going to finish on one note. What is this? What is this? Oh, yeah, what is this? What is this?